Take us back. How did Love to Be first begin?
It began in the 90s. It was born out of a night that I was running in Leeds at the Music Factory. Back in 1992, that night started. We had people like Eric Murillo and Roger Sanchez, Master at Work. Great DJs.
You have a flagship event. Your first was last year. What did you learn from that?
We had about 2 or 3 weeks of sleepless nights. One day we'd come into the office and say, "Yeah, we're doing it, we're going for it," and then the next day we're like, "No, let's not do it." You know, it was a scary, undertaking really. We set it up initially to do 2,000. We thought we'll manage it. We'll test the water with it. We actually ended up doing 4,000.
Tony and Marc, Love to Be. Thank you for being here. How are you?
Great to be here.
Yeah, nice to be here. Nice to have a chat.
Well, yeah, we were meant to have a chat when you're in Ibiza. I knew it wouldn't happen. I don't think I've done a podcast in Ibiza where people are like over there touring or anything, and it's actually happened. There's so much going on, isn't there?
Yeah, that looks as fresh as well. So
yeah, absolutely. So you had a good fun over there. You played at 528 and some other venues, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, Cafe Mambo.
Yeah, we did a Love to Be event at 528 on the Saturday, which was really, really good. We had Milk and Sugar, K-Class, the Taste of Music guys came over. So we did the Terrace and the Club, which was really good fun, really busy. And then, we popped in to play at Cafe Mambo before we headed back. So,
it's not bad, is it?
A good week, yeah.
I like K-Class. K-Class are great.
Yeah, good.
They're really good. Do you book them quite a lot?
Yeah, we do. We book them for the bigger Love to Be events where we have like a 90s kind of Music Factory classic stage, which is a throwback to obviously the Music Factory where we started in Sheffield. And they do a lot of the bigger kind of stages for us, and obviously Ibiza as well, which was great to see them over there.
Take us back. How did Love to Be first begin?
It began in the 90s. It was born out of a night that I was running in Leeds at the Music Factory. Back in 1992, that night started. It was called Happy. It was a Tuesday night. We were rivaling what they were doing on the Friday and the Saturday, but managing to pull the numbers on a Tuesday. And the club owners bought another Music Factory in Sheffield and offered it to us over Dave Beer and Tony Hannon, who were running Ronson and Basics at the time. But the caveat was to run the night with the actual owner's son and his friend who was a marketing guy. It turned out to be a really good team because I sorted out the music, the guy sorted out the promotion, and Love to Be was born from that really. And we were very lucky because I've been running Happy, we knew the formula that worked with happy, uplifting house, and it wasn't rave music. It had come out of the rave scene, but it was a bit more grown up, the music style. And we were booking guests from Farley Jet Master Funk, John Please Women, at Happy, and Christian Woodyatt, and then we kind of grew that with Love to Be because we had the Saturday night pool. We were not just pulling from the student audience, we were pulling from all over. Didn't know if it would work in Sheffield because it had worked in Leeds, but it worked really, really well. After about 3 or 4 weeks, it was 1,800 people every week. We were booking people from mainly from the US scene. We had people like Eric Murillo and Roger Sanchez, Masters at Work. Great DJs that people in Sheffield probably hadn't heard before. So really stamped our mark on putting decent quality house music with a bit of an uplifting edge in the right spot, which was just as super clubs were coming about, just out of that rave scene. People were getting dressed up. There was no glow sticks and white gloves anymore. It was more about dance around your handbags, big pair of stilettos on. Not me though, Patrick Cox for me. Just having a good time, but with really, really good quality music. I mean, the rave scene had been all sort of like very much going faster and faster and into happy hardcore, into jungle.
Yeah.
And we'd kind of, because I'd worked in a record shop as Marc did in the early days, we knew that there was another kind of music that had that energy, and that was the music that had the roots as well, which was coming out of the US scene. So that's what we kind of focused the guests and the music that we were playing on really, which was great. And the people in Sheffield loved it. I mean, they'd already had a rich clubbing history with Dave Seaman working at that club when it was Jam Factory. So when we took it on as the Music Factory, we had a ready-made audience, but we gave them something a little bit different.
Did you mention Tuesday? You were doing it on a
It was
Tuesday.
Happy was on a Tuesday in Leeds, and
And that was
basically
students.
I mean, I was a student at the time, so
Mm-hmm.
it was easy to move the student crowd. But I noticed there was everybody. There was nights on 7 nights a week.
Yeah. There
Back
was,
in
wasn't
those
there?
days, house music was so raw, and people
Yeah.
wanted more and more of it. And all I did was go out when I was a student. I just wanted to see what these nights were like. Prior to coming up to uni, I was going out to sing at the Astoria, watching Pete Tong, and I got all this information in my head of what I wanted to do with the night. And then when we had an opportunity to get into not a student venue, but a venue in Leeds City Centre, and a good one, the Music Factory, we could put all those things in place. And it was a really well curated night. We had a particular tune at the end of the night that really sent people off with HAPPY in their head, and we were one of the first people to really book really decent guests. In a certain music policy, really, it was because house music very much across the board. But what we did with Happy, it had to be that sort of like fairly uplifting US kind of drive-in sound. And yeah, it clicked. It didn't have to be these big piano tunes all the time.
Yeah.
There was a bit more,
Yeah.
bit more, the early reel-to-reel stuff, the Strictly Rhythm stuff, really, really good stuff. That it kind of clicked, and it was the next move on from that rave scene, I think, really. And it was a
I
bit more
remember
grown up as well.
going raving on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So that just flashback then of the gardening club in London used to be
Yes.
on
Yeah.
a Monday evening, didn't it?
Yeah.
What a day! Could you imagine an evening now?
Well, I remember when I first
on a
started playing
Monday.
in Leeds, I got booked to play at there was a venue called the Fruit Cupboard, and we did a Wednesday there with like DJ Disciple, Terry Hunter on a Wednesday night, and it was absolutely rammed.
Well,
Yeah, man, you just
our
find it crazy.
universities were our busiest nights for Wednesdays, and I was at Middlesex University. We had every single venue had a nightclub, and there's 5 venues, and they were decent nightclubs. I mean, they all held at least 500 to 800 people.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely packed on Wednesday nights. And then we did this is when I first started getting into it. Then we did our more specialized events on the Saturdays. But the Wednesdays, we were playing house music, and it was it was so fresh and unknown. I was speaking to Graham Gold last week, but the thing is, it was so new then. And everyone was just so fascinated with it all, and there was so much more that went with it. But you said it was called Happy. How did it turn to Love to Be?
So, well, yeah, obviously, I sat down with the owner's son, Marc Black, and Tony Gedge, his marketing guy. We sat down in Indie Joe's in Leeds, and they said, "Look, we want to bring what you've done on the Tuesday to a Saturday night." I said, "Yeah, we can do that. We'll have a bit more budget. We can book more guests." And what the name Love to Be came around because they said, "Look, we want something as good as Back to Basics, but with kind of your sound." And there was a flyer on the table at Indie Joe's at the time, and their logo was a backwards B, a 2 and a forwards B. And I was just jotting stuff on paper. And if you turn the B on its side, it becomes a heart and you've got Love to Be. So that was how it was formed. I said, we could call it Love to Be. And the marketing guy was, oh, right, this is a good idea, because there's so many things we can do with Love to Be, ... And that's how it grew out of Happy, really. It was pretty much the same formula. And I had other partners in Happy that weren't too happy that I'd gone off to do this Saturday night. But it was what I wanted to do. It was a progression. It gave us more access to DJs and bigger budgets, really. But yeah, it was something to put decent house music on the map. It was definitely in Sheffield. Sheffield always had strong nights, but this was another one that took it up a level a bit, really.
Sheffield was a hub for good nights, wasn't it?
Well, it had Warp Records and all that really rich history, as did Leeds, with the warehouse and stuff that was going on there.
Of course. And you both worked in record shops as well.
Yeah.
I always wanted to work in a record shop. It was my dream job to work in a record shop. I remember. I never got the chance. But funny enough, that this working in record shops has come up a lot in podcasts recently, as they were the filters of music. You used to get to know the people who were working in the record shop. They used to get to know you and your taste. And they'd be like, hey, Tony, Marc, you'd love this. This. That's gone now. And
The
you're like,
quality control's gone out of music. That's what I always said when it first went online and downloaded. I was still working. I worked in a record. I was still a spotty teenager when Love to Be started, by the way. So I joined the business in the late '90s as a DJ, and then obviously gone on to work with Tony and own the brand. But yeah, the record shops were a real kind of, you had to be really knowledgeable and know your music because you had to physically buy the stock in to then be able to sell it. Now, download stores can just take anything, because there's no detriment to the sales. Whereas you had to be really knowledgeable. I mean, when I worked in a record shop, we had a guy who bought breaks, we had a guy who bought drum and bass, we had a guy who bought trance. I was the manager of the shop that I bought I was the house kind of buyer.
it was a generic shop because a lot of the shops, some just played house, some
Yeah,
just
yeah.
played drum and bass.
Mine did a bit of everything. Yeah, yeah. We had
Ah,
loads of
okay,
different
across the
sections of
board.
stuff. Yeah, a bit across the board, and you had to know your customers. You'd put bags away from them, and they'd come in every week. And even as a DJ, I'd head into town. I used to get out of bed on a Thursday at that point, and then recover from the weekend, and then head into Manchester and go into like Underground and Eastern Bloc and all the the shops in Manchester, and they'd know you. They'd have a bag put aside. They say, "Oh, this has just come in this morning." All the imports used to come in on a Thursday morning. And you'd be paying, you won't be paying sort of 50p to a pound a download. You'd be paying, 12, 15 quid for an
Exactly,
import from
exactly.
the US. So you have to, you have to be really on it as well. So yeah, they were good times, and it was really good for networking and socializing. That side of it's gone, and people used to just come in on a Saturday for a coffee and sit down, listen to some music, and you'd meet promoters in there. And I was probably one of my busiest times as a DJ when I was working in the record shop. Was working in a record shop as Tony was as well, like 5, 6, 7 days a week, and then DJing sort of 4 nights a week as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you do it in them days, but
we'd
yeah,
always see the DJs of our local club in the record shops that
yeah,
was generally owned by someone who DJ'd at that night.
yeah,
And it was really weird. So the networking thing was there, but really importantly, it provided a filter. That filter's completely gone,
yeah.
and
So
now with AI, it's gone even worse because they're just churning stuff out, and Beatport must be like, oh my god, what we've got enough already. When you started, did you ever think you'd be still traveling in this journey 30 years later?
I think because we both love music. I mean, that's primarily where we come from. Yes, definitely, because we've always, in one form or another, supported the music that we love, and it's not died. House music hasn't died,
No.
so it's got stronger and stronger. Yeah, it's kind of got its subgenres that have floated around it, but the core of house music's been there, and yeah, we want to be around house music in whatever form. Like Marc said, record shops, with promotion, with being in the studio, we're doing radio shows, we're doing podcasts. It's there. It's something we love. So if it's in your soul, if it's something that you love, music's your life, house music's your life. You're not gonna give up that journey, are you?
I always say it's in your blood.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's in
definitely.
your blood, and I
I
always
think
said,
we've loved to be being having such history as well. When house music wasn't so fragmented like it is now, it's enabled the brand to stick to those kind of policies of, we're not a soulful house night, we're not a tech house night. We play, even when we DJ as Trim Tone, we play music from a massive sort of across the house spectrum, really. We've always done that as DJs. It's just about playing good music with lots of energy. And Love to Be was always about that. You can play a big vocal track, play something a little bit more underground. And we do that now with the modern music. And I think that really helps the brand sort of stand out. It's about just playing good music, not saying we're a tech house night or we're this, we're that. I think that's really important on
yeah,
ourselves as DJs as well, and I think that's what's helped us stand the test of time as a brand. And obviously ourselves still DJing and still jumping on and off flights, fortunately. So they keep
yeah. I
booking
mean,
us.
because there's not many nights left that are 30 years old plus. I mean, you must.
No,
How
not
many
really.
years is it? 30,
31 now.
31.
Yeah, yeah.
31,
We did the
31
30th anniversary
years.
tour last year. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah, I
still
mean,
brands that are around, but they're not doing regular events. They'll do kind of one or two a year. Whereas Love to Be has never had a break in those 30 years. It's always done events. There's brands that
a lot
obviously
have
have stopped.
come and gone.
Yeah,
and come
Yeah,
back.
which is great. You know, there's brands that maybe stopped in the early 2000s and then they'll do a reunion sort of 15 years later. You know, which is great, and you know, it's great for the fans of those brands to do that. But Love to Be has always been relevant every single year for the past 31 years. There's been Love to Be events, and then it's just got amplified after lockdown because of the work we've put into reposition the brand and continue that journey.
And what's the biggest lesson you've learned from throwing parties over those last 3 decades? Diversity.
You're as good as your last event. I know you are.
Yeah, I think you are. You
Definitely.
know what? You are in this business. You're as good as your last event. You can put on amazing events. Fuck up one of them,
Yeah.
and you never hear the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, especially with social media, if you have, just say, for instance, you've got a problem at a club for a particular night, the comments will focus on that particular problem. And it will remove all the positivity from the rest of the amazing night you've had. And I find that quite dangerous.
Yeah.
And it is annoying.
I think one
And
of the things we've had to learn more recently probably is because the brand has grown significantly over the last few years since lockdown internationally. You can't please everybody, you know, like you are going to get the negative comments and things like that. And, you know, fortunately, we don't get a lot of them. But I think that is the thing is, you know, don't obviously take things for granted, but obviously, you know, for ourselves as well as owners, is not to take things too personally. You know,
it's hard not to, though, isn't it?
yeah, it is hard not to. Yeah.
I know some very big owners of very, very big venues who will put in 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people, and they'll get 2 or 3 bad comments, and that's all they'll think about all day. And it's just like, I can't help it. I just can't help it. And I had this
conversation. So personally, don't you?
I had this conversation with someone not too long ago, and they're like, I'm the same. It's really difficult because what you've got to understand is now we're in that element of where, especially if you're doing the more retro nights, you've got like a lot of the older crew that don't generally go out anymore, and they're commenting on things that they haven't even been to. And that's what annoys me, and that really gets my goat a little bit, because it's just like, what you can't, you're just being a keyboard warrior. And that's what you can't avoid. People are just human and not very nice. And jealousy kicks in, and it's you've got to be careful. But that's one of the negativity sides of social
100%.
media. But social media also has a huge positive side, that we don't have to be standing out there with flyers anymore.
In the middle of December.
Don't miss that.
Exactly. And what makes your crowd different from an average house music night?
I think it's really the Love to Be crowd more recently as well. You know, the older generation have grown with Love to Be. You know, sort of before lockdown, we were still doing quite a lot of heritage events, but then during lockdown, we really put a lot of work into online streaming, the radio show where we were playing new music, and we quickly learned that crowd who were brought up on, you know, Masters at Work and Frankie Knuckles and people like that playing at Love to Be, they still wanted to hear good new music. You know, we got a comment after we did a festival in Sheffield in May, and one of the comments was, you know, you don't just churn out big classics for the older crowd, because we want to hear new music as well. And I think probably what makes us, you know, kind of stand out a little bit is we had a tagline going into the 30th anniversary and into this year was bridging generations on the dance floor. And we've seen a lot of younger people who are big house music fans, probably your 24, 25-year-old market. And then we have like people coming up to us saying, my mum told me to come today, or I'm here with my auntie and uncle who came to the music factory and they've told us to come to Love to Be because it's really good and we've had such a good time. The music's really, you know, different. And I think we've got a real kind of broad age range of people that come together and really have a good time. There's no sort of one standing there going, oh, it's a bit old in here, or it's full of kids. You know, it's like they all come together. The music's really uplifting. You know, the energy's there from the crowd. And so I think that probably, you know, is where we sort of sit in quite a niche position, really.
Isn't it great when they bring their kids?
Yeah. It's great.
I think Kevin and Perry, we've had granddad, father, son. Like I saw the grandfather, because I spend a lot of time outside sometimes to get a bit stressed in there, and I saw the granddad slope off quite early. He done one out the back, you know, like I always do. But it's these generations, we're sharing the same music.
Yeah.
Whereas like from the 60s and 70s, we didn't share that music, did we?
No,
Really?
no,
Well,
no,
we
no.
still appreciate it, but this is very much still generations are sharing electronic dance music,
Yeah,
which is
100%.
kind of like quite kind of unique within itself. I'm going to jump to your events that are coming up because they are soon, and you've got the Summer Club New York. Is it New York event on
Yeah,
August the
yeah,
2nd with
yeah.
Martin Ikin, who I'm quite familiar with actually. How did that one come together?
We've got quite a good kind of contact base in America. So we've done stuff in Chicago and Miami the last couple of years.
Wow, cool.
And we kind of reached out to one of our contacts it was about Miami this year actually. And he said one of his promoters were looking to do some kind of collab events in New York. So we kind of hooked up a bit of an intro. We've kind of kept the brand relevant over there the last couple of years with some really good events. We did Roger Sanchez a couple of years ago. We did a fire in Miami. We've gone out and done Love to Be in Chicago. And it was just an opportunity to go into New York, and a really good venue. It's 2,000 capacity, massive pool party. Martin Ikin's going to obviously come and rock it as well. We're going out to support as well. So yeah, it was a really good opportunity. They wanted to do more regular stuff out there with us next year as well. So that's kind of in the plan. So yeah, really excited about that, and it's looking like a big one.
Because he produces some good tunes, Martin, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Tool Room and obviously big labels, and he's got
Yeah.
history as well, hasn't he, under different pseudonyms?
I've been aware of Martin for a long time, actually, which is
Yeah.
weird. So I'm glad you've got him on board. What is he quite big in America?
I think his sound is big. Yeah, that sound is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a slightly tougher music edge because they're coming out of that EDM kind of scene back into
Thank God.
house now, so they appreciate the
Yeah.
more bridged sound. But it's quite good because it gives us that opportunity to play our version of that alongside what Martin does. So, yeah, I think it'll be really, really
I suppose
responsive.
the EDM generation over there is just maturing.
It is, yeah, exactly like we said
Yeah.
about the rave scene, and then going into this more cultured house scene. That's exactly what's
Because
happening.
it went crazy. I mean, it went from like, I remember I was working with some artists and they were calling it big room. And then it was like
big room, yeah.
EDM. And then I was hearing the word EDM before EDM. Like EDM was like just a word for all musics. Do you remember that time?
We played in Vegas, and they had us build as EDM
EDM
DJs.
artists.
It was like,
Yeah, it's like, "Ooh," yeah, but then it turned into very much the EDM that everyone thought was quite cheesy, but
yeah.
it's at the end of the day it was entry level music, and I suppose they're always going to commercialize it in some way, and now we're going to see that generation going, okay, and their ear matures as well, and they want to hear
Yeah.
different musics, and I suppose once they've been hanging around EDM, they would have gone into the other tents and other arenas and discovered other musics as
Yeah.
well, because I don't think EDM is as prominent um, as it was
Yeah.
in America. So you've got that in New York. I really want to go to New York as well. You're so lucky. And then following closely, you're back in Manchester on August the 9th. Yep. And that's at the Yard.
Yeah.
And that's with Marshall Jefferson, who I was talking to Steve Mack about yesterday, and the Reflex. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. I mean, you excited about that?
Definitely. It's an absolutely amazing venue. We're really happy to be working with the guys there. It's a kind of terrace, would you say terrace party? But it's got a roof on the terrace. So it's an outdoor vibe. I think when we go out of our comfort zone, out of our festival heads back into clubs, we try and find something a little bit different. We don't just want to go to your box standard club. We want to do something where by the vibe is right, it's going to look good on social media. And these yard type parties do really, really well. And the atmosphere in the yard down there is second to none.
I lived in Manchester for a while, for a good few years, 3-4 years. Where is it?
It's in Cheetham Hill, so it's like just on the outskirts.
Okay.
As you're going out towards
Yeah.
Cheetham Hill area. So it's an old all boys school what we've converted, and it's got like loads of shipping containers in the yard and things like that.
Oh yeah,
we did the first event there on the May Bank holiday back in May with Roger Sanchez, and it was unbelievable. Like the atmosphere was really good. We had the edit guys in the other room as well doing like a bit of a disco thing, and they're doing that again with obviously the Reflex, and we've got Marshall, also got Capri. who's obviously just his big tune with Low Stepper. The funk got the funk absolutely going insane this year. So he's coming in to make a debut for us, which we're really excited about because his sound is perfect for Love to Be. So yeah, really looking forward to being back in Manchester. Definitely.
Manchester's wicked. It's got
Yeah,
such a
it's
great
great.
scene. I come back from Ibiza, then got a job in Manchester, working with artists, and I was lucky that I was there at the Sankeys, the last few years of
Yeah,
Sankeys, the Warehouse Project. There was the underground radio station place around the corner. Then Hidden opened up, and so they've got a reputation of like creating really fantastic
yeah,
venues. But
yeah,
then the audience are up for it as well
yeah,
in
yeah.
Manchester.
And it's really diverse as well. The yard is a
Definitely.
Yeah.
really diverse crowd, which was really good to see. I'm from Manchester. I was born in Manchester, so it's
Okay.
like close to my heart to do stuff over there, really. So yeah, no, we're really excited about
Where are you
that.
from in
So
Manchester?
I'm from Failsworth, which is a little
I know.
area north Manchester,
I know.
on the border
Because
on the border of Oldham.
I lived in Eccles.
Tony says I'm from Oldham, but
Yeah.
got
I lived
M35
in
postcode.
Eccles near Salford
Yeah.
for quite a while, and I loved it there. It was like when I got there, I was like, oh my god, it's a bit spit and
Sketchy.
sawdust. Yeah, but so friendly, the
Yeah.
people. Oh, they're lovely, lovely people, and I've really enjoyed living there, and the music scene was wicked, and yeah, so I do know where you're on about because I got one of my cats from around
All right. Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
one of my tabbies is from there. So, but you have a flagship event which has been going for 2 years now. Is that correct? The
Yeah.
festival.
Second year now.
Yeah. Second year this year. Yeah.
Yeah, so you Love to Be Festival. That's in Harrogate on September the 6th. Your first was last year. What did you learn from that? What's going to be different this year? Tell
I
me
mean,
all about it.
yeah, it was a big learning curve last year. It was something that was probably on the map to do this year, but we got this opportunity to do something in Harrogate last year. We had about 2 or 3 weeks of sleepless nights. One day we'd come into the office and say, "Yeah, we're doing it, we're going for it," and then the next day we're like, "No, let's not do it." It was a scary undertaking really for everybody, and we're a reasonably small team. So yeah, we took the plunge and we set it up initially to do 2,000. We thought we'll manage it, we'll test the water with it, we'll see if we can prove the concept. And just bizarrely, we put a teaser out. It was literally an organic post, and we had I think it was like 1,800 sign-ups within like 48 hours. It went crazy, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then the pre-sale went online and we sold out of it. We actually ended up doing 4,000 last year, which was double what we sort of anticipated. So yeah, it was a really good event. Everyone with the feedback was really good as well. We've sort of upped to the game a bit this year. We've got obviously a bigger lineup with Armin van Helden, Shapeshifters, Ultranate. We have a classic tent. We have a big main stage, which is new music. And it's just going to be sort of next level, really, isn't it?
Yeah. We have big VIP as well. Last year we did about 500-600 in the VIP. It's now grown arms and legs and got a bit bigger. But I think it caters for that Harrogate crowd and the North Leeds crowd, which we'd done a lot of homework on the previous years leading up to that. So it wasn't just a case of luck. We'd put a lot of work.
Yeah. It's not luck nowadays with festivals. It is sleepless nights.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
And
it's a totally different undertaking for us. Having to put the infrastructure. It's literally a field, the Stray.
Yeah.
It's royal land as well. It's the king's land, so we've got to be really careful on there.
I just wouldn't do it. If someone's offered me to do a festival, even though I've done hundreds of events, I just don't think I'd do it. I
We were
really
close
wouldn't.
to
Not
saying,
nowadays.
Yeah. I mean,
I,
even on the day, we were sort of, oh, what's it going to be like? It's not a club, there's only thousands of people here. We knew we'd done the tickets, so we should have been relaxed at that stage. But even on the day, we were like really on edge.
it can
And
go tits
yeah,
up on the day, and
yeah,
then that can go back on your brand,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
can be,
yeah,
that's what I always worry about. Is like, even if you put 5,000 people in somewhere, like if something logistically goes wrong in that club or venue, it can look really bad on you.
yeah.
And
And,
that's
and
what
it's
terrifies me.
customer experience as well, which is really
Absolutely.
important. They're the
Yeah.
most important people. The people who buy tickets, the people who come to the events. We wouldn't be anywhere without those people who've been doing that for 30 years, really. So, it was really important. We gave them a really good experience. And this year we've really added quite a lot of stuff in, some fun stuff. as well. And we've got people traveling. It's not just a Harrogate and North Leeds crowd, but people ticket buyers from all over the north of England, London. I think some tickets were sold in Germany last year. So, it's really getting some traction as well, that now. And there was a moment really, we kind of, Barbara Tucker went on at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we were stood at the back of the stage, and it just went absolutely bonkers, and we were just sort of stood there, like, this is
Job
crazy,
done.
even looking back on your wedding day, like you're looking at all the videos, like,
Yeah.
did that actually happen? So
Yeah.
fingers crossed, everything's going to go well this year as well.
I'll put all the links for the tickets and information in the comments and so in the descriptions below on here. This will go out on we're really strong on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as so if anyone's listening, just have a look at the descriptions. But yeah, no, it's exciting because in a way festivals have now replaced nightclubs. Who was I speaking to? I think it was Jules. He was saying that it's not cool now to go to a club, the same club every week. It's not Instagrammable, It's not like if you were seen at the same place every single week, someone would think you're a boring bastard.
Yeah.
Whereas when us lot were out, we were going to the same places every week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I wouldn't dream of going anywhere else, Wouldn't like, I'm not going to Ministry of Sound or the Dormant.
You were loyal to a band or a club, wasn't
Absolutely, absolutely. And but now it's the different where people want to go and see different experiences, like festivals.
Yeah.
But the problem is there's lots of festivals now.
Yeah.
And
all
fighting.
That comes with its own pressure as well, because I think obviously going back to what Tony was doing with the brand in the 90s, especially where you're every week, you can maybe have a quieter week, but then you can recover and you can get some momentum off the next couple of weeks. But this is like you get one chance at it, you get one hit, and you've got to give everyone that
We've
one.
got to be mad, haven't we?
Yeah.
Honest to God, I say every year it's going to be my last year. It's just because
we've been saying that for 30 years.
Yeah, the dynamic changes every year. Every year is the dynamic, and Ibiza's changed this year with the Universe opening. It's everything shifts, and it's like nothing is in your power. The weather. That's what would drive me insane. I'll be on like my iPhone all the time. Going,
that's what you are. Yeah. 2 weeks before you're like,
you're like long term. I bet you've done it long term, forecast. I bet you've been doing all that business.
Yeah.
I mean, I even do it with Ibiza sometimes because you can get caught out in Ibiza with open air events. And I live in Croatia here, where there's open air venues. They're all open air. And the last month, we've been hit by storms. They're only very sudden storms, but they're really heavy, devastating.
We got hit with one, didn't we? In Ibiza, when we were sat having a bit of dinner, and it was like a sort of half open air venue, and it just absolutely, the heavens just opened, like leathered it down.
Just for a few minutes, and they're only very short though, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then it clears up.
Yeah, Tony had a solid mistake.
like mini hurricanes here, and so I think that's what kind of puts me on. I think the people who put on the UK festivals are very, very brave, especially with the weather we get over there. So how do you go about curating your festival lineup? Because that must be a difficult one, because I know you are very forward thinking with your brand, that you want to incorporate the old and you want to keep it going forward.
Yeah.
So how do you book that lineup? Do you do the bookings yourself?
Yeah.
How long does it take you to decide?
we have a kind of document that we work off of, sort of a roster basically of all the DVDs that would fit the Love to Be style. That being that, artists who are just breaking through, or more sort of like younger current artists, the iconic names as well. And it's finding the right blend of, the iconic names who are going to play that Love to Be sound, drop a few classics in as well, but they're predominantly still playing new music, and then finding those kind of younger artists who fit the Love to Be, not just musically, but from a personality perspective as well, who are going to sort of blend with the crowd and, sort of really sort of be receptive, because, they know what they want, the Love to Be crowd, and obviously the festivals are bigger, you've got a bigger audience and probably a little bit more mass market, but I think it's important to get the flow as well, right? And get the live act. We have some live acts on at the festivals. Fortunately, we've got 2 stages, so we can really hone in on the heritage acts and the 90s kind of vibe in the big top with K-Class and people like Alistair Whitehead, all the names that played at the Music Factory for us, and then we can sort of push the newer music on the other stage as well.
So you've basically stage A, stage B, and then you can let people decide whether they can drift between the two.
Yeah.
And what's the hardest thing about putting on the festival? Dealing with the stress.
I just think it's the planning, it's the whole thing, because you're not in the 90s. We're doing a club night and you just literally had to worry about the promotion and getting your lineup right. Now it's absolutely every last tiny detail. You're not just putting the bars in, you're putting the infrastructure in. You've got to get your lineup right. You've got to make sure you've got good security. Team meetings, it's a constant year of planning for one event, and
Yeah.
it's not just me and Mark. We have a big team that work with us on this.
Licenses.
Yeah.
Licenses, and absolutely everything. And
Yeah.
all the things you would have hated in the 90s to do as a promoter.
Well, we just didn't get them.
No, you didn't have to
Just
do it.
didn't do
You
it.
just rocked up, paid
Yeah.
£1,000 or whatever to hire the venue, and then you were away. It's not like that now. So it's I mean, it's great. I mean, we've evolved with it because we love the music scene. We love the business side of it as well. So it's quite interesting to learn these new ways of working as a promoter. I think when in the 90s, we found it so easily and took it for granted to get these nights up and running. Now we really appreciate what that was, but we're still prepared to put that hard work in, because we've both run our own venues in the past. We've both been heavily involved in working in other ways within the music industry. So we brought those skills to the table. We've made sure we work with the right team, which is really, really important. And yet we don't mind putting that work in. I mean, we have a few arguments now and again about stuff, and we it's never going to be plain sailing, but it's a learning curve, and it's a learning curve that we're in for. And I think a lot of promoters who want to come back into the scene maybe from the 90s will find it hard, because it's a different ball game now.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
that was my next question. Is it harder or easier to throw a party in 2025 than it is in
Harder.
1995? I think
And
it's a hell of a lot harder.
when you're running club events, you can run it on quite a small team. You know, someone for the door. You can do the marketing yourself. You got to put some banners up yourself and things like that.
Yeah.
Back in the day, but now we've had to learn. I suppose I'm more on the operational side. I've had to learn to get the business out of my head, and so people know what's going on, and because we've got a team obviously who look after the insurances and licensing and health and safety. We've got obviously sound monitoring, the bar pricing and things like that. So there's just a whole operation to go at, and it's having to realize you need a big team to do that, and thankfully we've got a really solid team. We've got a really good team who work with us day to day in the office, and I don't think people don't see that back end of it, and it's something we're going to try and document, I think, because I think quite rightly people don't know what goes on in the background, but I don't think they realize it's not just about the costs of running that event on the day. It's the year leading up to that, and all the costs of the marketing and the staff and things like that, as you run up to an event that big as well.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And that's a lot of the reason why I do these podcasts, because people don't understand what goes on behind the work. Like, for example, if you've got a canceller event, or you've got a DJ who cancels, or you've got this things happen. And me and Nick call it crisis management. Promotion is more like crisis management nowadays, especially when you're closer to the date. And you don't want any of this shit to happen, but it just does, and it's all you want is everyone having the most amazing time. And then when something goes wrong, and then you've got to put up with the grief that you get on social media from very short-sightedness, it's hard because they don't understand, and you're right in documenting something. I think Global Gathering did that many years ago. Documented what goes in behind the actual festival itself, because it's 6 months work easily, if not more. It's a huge amount of money. Some of these festivals never even make it to opening because the current climate is so difficult. And then you say, when they are announcing that they can't do a festival because they've lost a license at the last minute, it's not their fault. It's the last thing they want to do, and they just get hammered, online. And I don't think that what the promotion in my eyes is one of the most hard on the mental health, besides being like in a medical or something like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
police or fire. But sometimes my head just wants to
Yeah.
explode.
It's not for everybody.
It's
Definitely
not good on your sleeping patterns.
No, no, definitely not.
No, you
No.
have to have very, very, very thick skin, and also within these industries, there's a lot of ego.
Mm,
Yeah,
So you're having to deal with the artistic ego side of stuff as well,
yeah,
the demands, and it's so
yeah,
many moving parts that people don't see. And I'm sorry if the toilet was blocked.
yeah. I
You
mean, I think
know?
we're fortunate in that respect as well that we kind of work together. And we've been friends before, obviously, when owning the brand and things like that, and DJ'd and produced together for years. So I think it's not easy, but it helps that there's two of us and we can vent to each other, instead of just being one person, then you end up venting to someone in your team or something. We can kind of get everything out in our office and then, move on really. So it's then we're traveling and things like that, we get to do it together and ultimately we try and have a laugh with it and enjoy it. But
Yeah, and
I think that helps.
I think you lasting so long is an accolade to what you've been doing, because so many people drop out because of the reason they can't be bothered anymore.
Yeah.
And they even go out at the top, they'll quit when they're still doing well.
Mm.
Because even if you're doing well, you sit back at the end of the season and you're like, was it really worth it?
Yeah,
Even though you might make some money and it might be an amazing time, then you've got to think, was that 6 months of being away from my children,
yeah.
doing the office to 11 o'clock at night, up at 4 in the morning, because you got this and that and this, because you're trying to juggle other projects as well. Is it worth it? And it's now so difficult against all these corporates who are just throwing massive money at
Yeah.
multiple festivals, and it's a really difficult environment. So hats off to you guys for doing it. Is any particularly unforgettable moments you've had at your own parties over the last couple of years, besides the Barbara Tucker on
Yeah, well,
stage?
eventually Barbara took him on. I think one for me was probably Tony could touch on the sort of the history side of things. But I
Yeah,
think one
yeah.
for me was we've done a lot of streaming in lockdown and obviously, introduced some new DJs and things like that. And the first event we did out of lockdown was really special. I mean, the atmosphere was like, it was like all hell broke loose, it was like people just wanted to let go, and we had Who play and David Penn. And we were like, well, it's a real test of the water. Who, were a new act and we'd never booked them before. And they went on, and I think their first tune was just like the roof nearly came off the place, didn't it? And we stood there like, it was like everyone was really letting off some steam, like
Yeah.
really, it was like going back to, like you say, back in the early days when everyone went to Ibiza to really let off some steam. It wasn't clinical. It was just raw house music, in a ramshackle club, on a terrace, and it felt a little bit like that. It had that real vibe and energy, and it was just a really, really nice moment to think, yeah, okay, we can get back on track a little bit, really.
Yeah, I think our first event was the June test event for Kevin and Perry and in Amnesia, and it was just went crazy, and we were like, whoa, because obviously people haven't been out for ages, have they? So,
You had one of
and
those moments with CC Rogers, didn't you? I think, or someone like that. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. Back in the day, I think the pinch me moments were like, yeah, we've had CC Rogers on stage. He was absolutely amazing. Frankie Knuckles did New Year's Eve on
wow.
1995 and with Satoshi Tomy, and it was amazing. I mean, those moments that they don't leave you really.
As
Master
I
were
said,
playing Roughneck for the first time on an acetate on our sound system, and everyone going crazy. So those moments they're in you, and that's probably why we do what we do for
we
those
can definitely
moments.
do a second podcast on this, as I said before, about the history of Love to
Yeah,
Feed, because
definitely.
And then the
obviously
third one, record shops.
yeah, record shops as well. Record shops always come up in like every one of my podcasts, and I think it is a really sad thing it's not there now, because there is so much out there that is it's camouflaging some of the great tunes that are out there. They just don't come through because of the amount of monotonous AI generated or just, and also another thing about modern day music you might agree with is that because it's so accessible and everyone can make it, a lot of the people now aren't musically trained. Whereas back many decades ago, when the music first started coming through, it was very musical. It had melody. It was
Yeah.
really there was a talent, there was an art behind it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's not there isn't that musicality's not there. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I
very,
think like in the late 90s, especially, everyone was sampling disco records, you know, and I think that helped the musicality. People like Dave Lee were, you know, getting sort of
Session
folk
musicians.
bands and the session
Yeah, yeah.
musicians in and recreating disco
Because
records.
she had the money, the
Yeah.
was the pumping, the majors were pumping the money into it, so you could get that
Mm.
musicality in there. Nowadays, you know, if you want to get an orchestra in with you, where are you finding that money from? You know,
Yeah. I mean, what I've heard about, like, when people go on to, like, talk about tech house and things like that, and you go onto Beatport and it all sounds the same and things like that. I don't know. I'm not a DJ, so I don't have that. But do you find that a lot of the music out there is quite similar? And you have to you have to dig through
Yeah.
1,000 crates now to find that one gem, whereas it used to be on a Saturday. I used to come home with like 2 or 3 records or 5 records
Yeah.
out of 100 or
Yeah.
so. So is it harder to find music?
It's a needle in a haystack, isn't it? I mean,
Oh, really?
I mean, there is good music out there. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
great producers out there. I think what you've got to do is you've really got to do your homework. I think that's what helps us as promoters, is that we are DJs. We are focused on music. We're not just promoting, we're listening to new music all the time. We're trying to push our record label. We're trying to find 2 hours of new music every week for the radio show. So we're constantly digging, and it's not just going on to Beatport. We find music everywhere, don't we?
Yeah.
You know, absolutely anywhere. Even in the supermarket, you hear an old sample and right, all right, we're gonna use that in a tune. And you're trying to find and develop new artists as well, which is really important for us. And just looking at producers, looking at certain patterns of ways people are producing. You know, the way that we've always done it, the way that we've always collected our music, just slightly different now. A lot of it's more of it's online, but there's still great music out there. The guys from Revival are bringing back that sound with the great musicians again, and Moose T and Paul Gardner and people like that are involved in that. So there is still kind of that what the embryonic sound that was there in the 90s is still there. And if you've got the money, you can do it like the guys in Revival are doing that really well. And we're going to try and do it with our label as well. But obviously focus on new producers as well as the old producers.
That's what I was moving on to. You see, because you're
And I
more
think
than an event brand, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. You know, we've got the record label, we've got the radio show. And I think it's, you know, there's a lot of young producers who are just coming through now, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously everything is digital, you know, which is just the way it is, you know.
Yeah.
You're still going about it, you're not going to move
It's still
on, are you?
music though,
So-
isn't it? You know,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
still
And there's some
music.
really good producers like East Town and people like that, isn't there, that are really sort of coming through with some real, and they're getting a bit of energy back in the music as well, which is really important. I mean, the tempo of house has really flown up recently. These last
And
sort
then
of,
it will drop back down again.
yeah,
Will do.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it went down about once,
It goes,
didn't it?
it
when
goes,
was
it goes
being
full
bad.
circle. I said this since I lived in Ibiza.
Yeah.
When I got there, it was full on trance.
Yeah.
And then DC-10 started slowing everything down.
Yeah,
Went down to minimal, and everyone was into that.
Yeah.
And I said, it's really good because you got, and then it was a hard house years before I went to Ibiza, and then it just goes in a circle, doesn't it?
Yeah,
really?
all the time.
Yeah. How do you decide what gets released on your labels? It's one label you have, isn't it?
Yeah, just music we love, really. I mean, we try and sign artists. We try and get people to come to the label that we know are good producers, but at the same time, it's still trying to search out new music. Demos get sent to us. We go looking through tracks we play on the radio and try and search out into some of the studios of lesser known producers. We just signed a 14-year-old producer who's come through the Tool Room Academy. So it's not just about getting names like Todd Terry, who we've had on recently on the label. We're pushing new talent as well, which is really, really important. So we want to develop artists as well as just bring back some of the older artists, because that kind of fits in with what we're doing at the events.
It's just the ethos of the brand as well, you know, with the events, it's mixing that iconic, those really sort of credible, iconic names with, you know, young up and coming producers and DJs as well. We're trying to sort of reflect that in the brand. Like Tony said, we had Todd Terry recently, and then, you know, people like Coney and Palacios have just done the 100th release for us. And then, you know, we've got a 14-year-old lad who's honestly, like, productions, I believe, like really, like Grant Nelson has produced it, you know, and he plays everything himself. He plays all the music, plays all the
Brilliant.
tunes. He's a really talented pianist. So, you know, that's something we're excited about as well.
How long have you had the label for?
I would love to be dipped into a label, didn't it, a long time
In the
ago?
vinyl days, yeah, we had Love to Be Labelled, and that there was a few releases on that. I think Joe Masafia, DJ Disciple, Tom Wainwright, people like that were getting involved doing remixes, and we had artists like Soraya. But that was a different era then, pressing vinyl. It was you could make money there.
Yeah. And then we relaunched the label in its current form during lockdown. We came out of it with a track called Be Free, which was one of our releases. And we've got to 100 releases, which is a really nice
Do
milestone.
you think if it wasn't for lockdown, you would have a label?
That was a tough one,
Because
wasn't it?
I know I shifted my whole work direction
Yeah.
in lockdown towards digital marketing, which I was good at anyway, but I knew I could do it in a different way. So did you look at right, what we're going to do now, and then you go, right, it's time now that we can
Yeah.
start putting music together,
I
because you're good
think-
at the events.
Yeah.
Direct those skills into the label. Is that what caused that, do you think?
We had a lot of time on our hands, didn't we?
Yeah.
And you're in an environment where, okay, we're not putting events on, but we're putting streams on. But then you've still got this amount of time. I think what we both did, we both had studios at home, so we both really knuckled down onto the production side from our side. And that makes you fall in love with things all over again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you think, right, we need to really focus on pushing this music out. But, you fall back in love with stuff when you have the time to do it. I think when you're just doing like a 9 to 5 constant daytime thing, you're just stuck in that lockdown, unfortunately for some, because it was a terrible time, but for others it gave you the opportunity to really focus on stuff that you wouldn't have had the chance to do. And that was definitely production, which led into the label.
Yeah, it was to see what we could do, through various channels to keep the brand active. And in a lot of ways, it did us really a lot of good, really, because we sat and looked at the brand as a whole. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What are going to be the opportunities when this thing's over? And like Tony said, the label was one of those things we could sit and do from home, but still get the music out there.
Yeah.
Streaming was really important. We did it every week. We reached millions of people. We did some charity streams as well, which raised a lot of money. And then coming out of lockdown as well, it was people coming up to us and saying, you really helped my mental health during lockdown, because I had something to look forward to on a Saturday, because we streamed every single week without fail all the way through it. And the radio show came off the back of that, because it was something we could do with music, which we could put out into the ether and let people get a taste of what Love to Be was about. And it got us a really big new fan base as well, fortunately. So
Tell me more about the radio show. How often is that? Where do people find it?
Every week, 2 hours. The Love to Be Global Connection, just about to rebrand because we're coming into our 5th year. It's just going to be the Love to Be show. We work alongside Trimtone ourselves, produce an hour of the music, and then another hour of the music's produced by a guest presenter. We've had Morales do it for us regularly. We've had David Penn, Cube Guys. Who else have we had?
Oh, Todd Terry's about to join us on there. Janika 10, Mixed Methods. There's been so many people. Roger Sanchez has been on there. Sam Divine's on there with a live mix from a Love to Be show we did back in May. It's every week. It's on about 100 stations now worldwide. So it's on like Kiss FM in Australia. It's Argentina.
Reaching over 7 million listeners every week, because it's on this syndicated. And it gives us a fan base when we go out to do our events in Sydney, or when we go out to do our events in America. They've heard of us. There's a reference point there, so we're not going in with people not have heard of Love to Be.
Again, I'll put all the information in the description.
You can get it on Apple Music, Mixcloud. You can catch up on all the shows as well on our channels as well.
Okay. You have your shows in America. You've got your festivals in Harrogate. Have you got any other further plans? Any other dreams that you want to reach event-wise?
Yeah, we've, like I say, we've been really fortunate. We've been playing all over the world as Trimtone since obviously we've come out of COVID, and the brand has grown internationally as well. We've done a couple of really big shows in Sydney with Basement Jackson, Alan Van Helden. We're back over there in November this year with Deep Dish. At the Greenwood with T1000 and Return to Rio, a big open air event which we're part of. And then we've got stuff all over the UK, obviously Manchester. We're looking at some options in London, as well as back in Sheffield and Leeds are sort of normal territories. And then next year we're really going to kick on really and sort of more international stuff we're looking at abroad. We're going to be going back to East Asia. Myself and Tony were over there this year. So we're going to go back to East Asia, more stuff in Australia we're looking at Melbourne and Perth as well. And Miami Music Week is on the diary for next year. So yeah, just as much as we can do really and physically fit in. So yeah, we want to just keep
You're
going.
traveling around a bit, aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't even go.
Hopefully, fingers crossed on our roadmap, we try and make sure every year we progress and do something new. So the big thing next year is to try and do a maybe 3 to 4 day event in Malta, which we're looking to go and set
I
up.
used to live in Malta as
All
a
right,
child.
okay.
All right.
Yeah. When I was a little nipper, I lived in Malta before all the festival
Yeah, yeah.
madness started over there. But I've heard very, very good things about Malta.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't go out much nowadays. I don't go
No.
over my own bridge from my island. So I'm quite jealous.
Yeah,
Um,
no, we're fortunate. We still get a lot of air miles in, and yeah, Malta's a big one. And then Ibiza next year is really key for us. We've done quite a lot of one-off things over the last couple of years. We did a 30th anniversary last year at Eden, which went really well. We've obviously done 5 to 8 this year, and next year we probably want to take a step up and do some more regular stuff really over there.
yeah. And if you could play in one club in Ibiza, which was the main club that you would like to?
Played at most of them, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I really enjoyed 528. Our last visit there.
Great, isn't it?
It was like going back in time.
Yeah,
And that's encapsulated what Ibiza was about when I first went out there in the
I mean, that indoor club's always been there, you know.
I know.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I know it from the Zoo Project, and I remember events before the Zoo Project, and that particular venue, 528, which is a Benamusu venues Zoo Project, whatever it's called, has got huge areas that people don't know about. And I think Andy McKay has done quite well and his team in creating something quite stripped back up
It's got
there.
that kind of older space terrace vibe to it, which but with a modern kind of flavour, which suits Love to Be perfectly because we've got the history with a modern flavour. So
I don't think
it's an unbelievable venue, and we went back to see Maceo Plex there, didn't we? And it was just heaving, and it was such a good vibe.
The price point's good as well. It's not overly extortionate.
No, they've been clever there.
The vibe's right. How it was.
I mean, not everyone wants to go to the big super clubs because the big super clubs have got the big spectacle shows on, and they are throwing mega money at it, and it's more production and big name artists. So people do need that other side of things as well, where it is more strict. What I like, preferably
more underground.
But it's sweat dripping from the ceiling and stuff like that.
The club at 528 was a bit like that, weren't it?
Very much so.
Yeah, I've been in there a few times. What's something you'd love to do with Love to Be in the next 5 years that you haven't quite done yet? We might have covered this in the last question, but is there anything that's on the dream board?
Well, obviously, to get something like Ibiza every single week, because I think that is the shop window for any brand to become a super brand, really. And I think to be able to prove that you can get a following every single week in somewhere like Ibiza, or maybe somewhere, elsewhere, Croatia or Malta, if you can do something on a regular basis where people are travelling to you and they're not just your Yorkshire area or wherever your fan base is from. That's
the difference.
To go global.
It's the difference. I call it moving people. Whereas it's okay to put an event on in your local area where people will turn up, but if you can actually get people to book time off work, to book a hotel, to book a flight, and to come just for your event somewhere abroad, then you're doing something very, very special.
I think that's
hard to do nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're doing the Malta thing next year. Is to sort of, can we tick that box? Can we do that?
Can you do it? Yeah.
We've done lots of stuff internationally, which is great. But I think this is a tester to, move people for 3 or 4 days to.
It is
country.
a real different kettle of fish. I mean, it's like because you got to talk pet sitters, kid sitters. It's the work thing, there's so many variables, and then when you're promoting it online and you're not seeing those sales come in, and it's very hard to judge how much to spend on your marketing because people are buying well after they're seeing the ads, and it's the data is all over the place. It's tough. It's a tough ask, but if you can do it, go for it, you know.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I
think,
think we just, in the long term, we just want to see the brand keep growing, really, and keep doing what we really enjoy, and keep giving people a good day or night out. That's what
it
it's
sounds as if
ultimately
you're
what
doing
it's
quite
about.
well anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we keep working away. We keep working out at it.
I've seen brands overstretch as
Yeah,
well. I
yeah.
think that's what I've seen. I've seen a couple in the last 10 years overstretched to such an extent that they've become boring
Mm,
because they're just everywhere, you
yeah,
know. And it's just like, why are you doing this in this small little town? Or you're doing something here, something here, something here, and you're not giving it any breathing space, you
mm.
know. And I think that's quite dangerous.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know
that's what
whether
we
you.
we sort of had that discussion, didn't we, about like not over saturating certain areas, and that's hence why we're trying to go out to new territories and do parties in different areas, because I think people won't go out that often. Like you say, we're going touching back on people went out every week. They won't do that anymore. It's just about putting a special event on in each area and
Yeah.
making them really strong.
Yeah, and also when people are seeing you're doing stuff in Australia and New York and things, and you don't necessarily have to run ads for, you can run dark ads to those particular areas. So you don't have to be always in people's
Yeah,
faces
yeah,
with new events, because sometimes you can get, oh, they're selling out a little bit. They're going there, you know, and this is what we find sometimes, you know, we've got to keep your core customer
yeah,
happy, because those are the guys that really made your event happen.
yeah.
You know,
100%.
that's something really, really important. That customer satisfaction is one of the
Yeah,
main things for us. But I wish you all the luck. I've had you for an hour. I'm deliberately going to finish here because I'd love to come back and do a. We've touched on your events today, and I think that you've got a lot coming up. We can push this one out, but then we can come back and talk about the history
that'd be
of
brilliant. Yeah, I
Love
think
to
so. Yeah,
Be. We've got Kevin and Perry coming up. We've got God's Kitchen coming out, and we've got quite a queue of people coming in to talk about those. But yeah, we've got 30 years of what you've been up
yeah,
to
yeah. A lot of history to
to,
talk about.
to
Yeah, yeah.
talk about. If you'd like to do a part two, that would be great.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Definitely.
definitely. 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Can I just end on one thing? If you had one more tune of the night, which one would you pick?
So many. I mean, your end of the night tunes. That is as a DJ. That's how you make yourself, isn't it? You're known. That's the tune that goes off in people's heads. You send them off into when you see them next. I mean, we've gone from anything from house to hip hop to funk to soul. Something a bit different at the end. I think Marty Thomas "Resurrect Me" was always one that we loved, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That is kind of
Did you
like.
do you go for periods where you stick to one tune and then
Sometimes you do, yeah. I mean, you used to play like back in the late '90s or something.
It's
You'd
not,
finish on a
wasn't it?
yeah, you'd finish on a disco track.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
First choice.
First Choice, It's
It's
Nothing to
not
Us,
was
something
always
like
the
that.
one. Yeah.
Or Mass Syndicate, You Don't Know,
Yeah.
a big vocal kind of anthem.
CC
Yeah,
Rogers someday, the
Yeah,
obvious, Joe Smooth,
yeah,
yeah.
and, those were the ones the crowd would want. But if you had the crowd in the palm of your hand, you could probably do something a bit different.
yeah,
Simple Minds, Seen from Great Cities, something really just to get in people's heads at the end and really.
Another important question that I missed out: day events and night events.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you doing a mixture of the both? Obviously, festivals day
yeah.
going into the evening. I doubt you've got. When do you close? What time would you close for your
11, but then there's a couple of after parties
after
in there.
parties? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
what?
it's a bit of a mix, really, isn't
He's
it?
a bit.
Yeah,
Well,
it's probably 60-70% day parties now,
yeah.
because that's what people want. Even we're doing a club event in Sheffield in October, and that starts at 6 till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But then you do get people saying, like, when you're going to do it, when's the after party? So there's still an appetite for people to be out late at night.
Yeah, yeah,
He likes the late nights. I like the daytime.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. They're fewer and far between now, aren't they? Because
Yeah.
I do speak to a couple of people, and I said, "What would be your one more tune?" And they were like, "Do you know what? I can't remember. I actually played when I played at a club, and I heard that chant. You know, the
Yeah, yeah.
one more tune, because people are going home earlier,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or they're in the daytimes now, you know, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit different. But yeah, I hate asking that question, because many people can't answer it. I don't know why I named this podcast One More Tune. It's ridiculous. And but even the most surprising of people can answer it just like that, which is weird. Like, I spoke to the producer Steve Mack a couple of days ago, and I thought, right, this is a guy that's produced close on 1,000 tracks. He's not going to know. And straight away, you know, knew the track straight away what you would drop.
Wow.
So yeah, and then I'll ask some other DJs and they just can't answer me. There's just so many different tracks that they would play. And also nowadays you get where the they a lot of DJs don't play that last set anymore, do they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, whereas years ago people would love playing the last set
Yeah, the
because
closing
people would
set,
be
yeah.
like proper
Yeah,
on it still, but it's a
turn out the
little bit
buttons and
more
yeah.
mild and subdued now, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So yeah, but no, brilliant guys, thank you so much. I will definitely get you guys back in for we'll call it the history of Love to Be, part 2. But good luck with all your events, and no doubt I will be chatting to you again very, very soon.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks
Good
very
to
much.
speak to you. Thanks for having
Cheers.
us on.
Thank you.